Hello friends, neighbors, John your whiskey neighbor here. Welcome down to the Nook and welcome to A Journey's End. This is when I go through all of the empties that I've collected over the past many months and try to share with you if my experience has changed, certainly my final thoughts, and really would I buy it again if I was just looking for a good whiskey. We've got some bourbon, we've got some scotch, a little bit of Irish, a couple of internationals, and only a couple of Canadians this time, and that's pretty much the order I'm going to go through. So buckle up. I've poured a little bit of one of them. Maybe I'll try to sniff and taste a little bit during and see if you guys can guess before we get to the end. 3, 4. So first up, we're going to go bourbon, and I've got Basil Hayden Toast. You know, this is a soft bourbon. It's a 40% release. It's presented well. I have to say it's a good gift bottle if you're trying to give something to something. I love the band. I love the looks. But do I like the extra age or the finishing in that toasted barrel? You know, in this case, it was all kinds of sweet and toffees and lots of vanillas. And it was too sweet for me. So if I'm buying for a sweet tooth and they haven't had it, like I said, really nice gift. But I'm not buying that one again. Just too sweet. Then a pretty affordable bourbon. You know, some High West, but it's a mix, I think, of their own liquid and some MGP. It is just their Prairie Bourbon, High West bourbon. It's just like their absolute entrance. As I said, a mix of a high rye and a low rye. Interesting. This bottle actually for me is pretty generic. It's pretty like, yeah, we're drinking bourbon. Okay, fair enough, we're drinking bourbon. But would I buy it again? Well, I got it for like 30 some dollars Canadian, and for that kind of price, you know, I would. It's great when I just want to have a reset bourbon or have something on ice or while I'm barbecuing. Is it going to knock your socks off? No, but I'll probably buy it again. Rebecca Creek. This one is the Spanish Oak. You know, I think Rebecca Creek must have some really good releases. And why I say that is they have many, many fans out there. Like, people constantly tell me that, you know, Rebecca Creek has some great releases. This 40% Spanish Oak blended whiskey was probably the worst whiskey I had this last year. It was awful. It was tannic. It was bitter. I know I don't normally talk that way. I'm a good, polite Canadian, but I have to say, I got this for like $40 or $50 off. So you'd think I'm like, oh, okay. No, this one, not only will I not buy it again, I have to say, if you are looking at that exact bottle, please don't buy it. Here's a pretty standard release, 1792 small batch. It's just solid, oaky, spicy bourbon. And when I say that, I mean hot and tastes young and a bit aggressive. I can get behind 1792. Like I can actually, you know what, like I can like this. I can go, yeah, I'm being beat up. This is good. But actually, if I'm going to get beat up and this is good, I'm going to go for something like this Ryan Egan full proof single cask, or even just their full proof, because there's something about getting beat up and then at cask or batch strength or whatever they're going to call it. So this small batch to me is, you know, nice. I got it on sale. It's okay. I'm not going to stock it. So that's where we are there. I think, my last bourbon that I have, High Gold from Rabbit Hole. High Gold, you know, at Rabbit Hole, I know is somewhat new, and they are doing some innovative things. They seem to do a lot of grain work, 4 grain here, different grain there. And I like their Derringer. That's the one that's finished in PX. Like, I definitely like that one. This one's high rye, double malt. You'd think I would like this one, and I didn't. This was not near as bad as that Spanish Oak, but it was also tannic and bitter, and also just not really good. So while it's a cool bottle, I love the little rabbit, and I do like Rabbit Hole Distillery. As I mentioned, Derringer is probably a favorite. I'm not buying that one again. Now, just before I go into Scotch, an interplay of smoke and peat and sweet wine notes. Okay, let's get into some Scotch. So I've got Ball Blair. This is just, their Highland single malt. Which one is this one? Oh yeah, it's 2005. I'm very glad I got this. Again, a decent sale. They're all gone by now. This was a really nice malt. It was, I'm trying to remember the core characteristics because it wasn't gentle, which I like. It had a little more malt character, a little more, not green, but like some of that, how was it, nut? Boy, I should have looked at my notes a bit more carefully before I brought this up because I just want to say that this had a lot of nice character. It was a good malt. I liked working through it. I enjoyed pouring it. 46%. This Ball Blair, actually, I would buy it again. Sadly, that particular release is long gone. Let's go Glenmorangie. You know, Glenmorangie Nectar d'Or, this is, back, I don't think I know they don't have this anymore. They've moved to a 16-year release, and it's got a variety of different sweet X wine casks in there. I haven't had that newer Nectar release, but this one, boy, on the edge. It's good. And Glenmorangie is a softer malt. Yeah, it's a great malt to pour their 10-year-old. It's affordable and get to know what just good, clean, single malt Scotch is like without breaking the bank. And then, when they go, the 2-year finishing, the Santa 2-year finishing, other ones, like they're all good. And then this one was a little bit extra special because it's got that dessert wine. It's good. And I enjoyed it. And it was just a little bit priced too high and not enough quality from the casks for me that it didn't stand out. So I'm not buying that again. I can still get it for a pretty good price, even though I know, like I said, it's discontinued. So here's a bruiser. This is Longrow peated. This is just their non-age stamp peated. A little bit of Campbelltown funk and lots of good peat goodness in here. I like Longrow, but what's interesting to me is, wow, this is good single malt. It's a little bit aggressive. And for some reason, it seems to lack some of the qualities that I get when they finish it. Like, so when you get a Longrow red and it's been, with some wine cask in there, boy, like that is some of the best Scotch I've ever had. This was just okay. And I actually like, when I'm going this level of peat, you'd think everybody loves Campbelltown, and I do. But when I'm going this level of peat, I'm actually probably going to go to some different Islas instead of this. So, while this was okay, Andrew and I bought a bottle together, and I believe, Andrew, and if I'm misquoting, I'm sorry, didn't really like it. I liked it, but I'm probably not buying it again, which you'd think I would because it was affordable and it's a Campbelltown, and why wouldn't you? I don't know. I have others that I prefer. So, past the sweet nose. Good body on that one. Okay, oh man, good. I love that interplay of smoke and peat and ash, but with, fruit, wine, and then oak, like almost maybe a virgin oak. This is Rest and Be Thankful. This one is the Finlassie 2017. Actually, speaking of Andrew, I bought that with Andrew, and I think I want to like this. I think I like reading about it, and I've heard other releases from these guys are amazing. But wanting to like it and liking it are two different things. And this one came up flat, came up almost cardboardy, and that's not a great note to remember. It's young, it's 5 years, but I felt this one I don't know, it just didn't light up for me. Love the presentation, good bottle, decent price. That particular one, if you see it on the shelf, if you have similar taste to me, not a chance. So then this one, McNair's Lumreek, but this is the blended malt 10-year cask strength. So I think we're at 55 or something close to that percent. So it's big. It's bold. It's got a nice smoky. It's not overly peated. It's not powerful peat, but there is peat running around in here. And there's sherry, and there's wine, and there's virgin oak. And this was absolutely one of my favorites from last year, or almost the year before. Like, I've been out of this one for a while. Anyways, this is batch 1, If I were to see it on the shelf, $100, I'd buy it in a heartbeat. I absolutely love that one. Okay, well, that's all the bottles that were within reach. Now I got to bend down and get a few. In fact, the next few I maybe should go through quickly because I didn't have a full bottle of, and that kind of takes it out of this running. All of these, I went through the whole bottle, but these ones I didn't, but they're still worth talking about. This is back from the Game of Thrones series. You know, there's a bunch of them. I still have a Lagavulin 9 up there, and this is the Klein Leash. And this one was 51%. Not age stamp Klein Leash, but lots and lots of horsepower behind it. I love this one. It was the usual chewy, waxy, oily mango fruit Klein Leash, and then it was knocked up a notch or two, so it got a bit of a bruiser. Is there a tiny little bit in there? I don't know. Oh wow! Right away, almost pineapple, mango fruit, and wax. Now, at that strength, it could be too waxy, and I think people who don't love Klein Leash would think they'd love that even less because of the proof actually kicked that up. I'm going to do a couple here really quickly. They're similar, and also I've just talked to you about these. These were given to me as just heels. You know, we've got Glen Grant, 18-year-old, beautiful, beautiful fruit-forward 18-year-old. And then we've got the Glenlivet 18-year-old, but going back a few years. You know, what's interesting is that both of these are 43%, and they were really nice to shoot side by side. Thank you, James. Between these two, if I were to put down my money, I would buy this one. I really, really liked it. Beautiful orchard notes, soft, gentle malt, no edges on either of these. Honestly, even the Big House Glenlivet, that's a really awesome scotch. If you've got that on your shelf, well, congrats. That's a nice 43% 18-year-old. It's just tough because it's a big house, and right now they're all charging way too much. Now this one I have talked to you about many, many, many times. This J.J. Corey, the Gale, I think this is, where's the number? I feel like it's number 2. This one, I can't say enough about. This has been my favorite Irish blend for as long as I've nursed that bottle through. I had a sample before I bought a bottle. I found a bottle. I should have got another one just because I truly, truly like this. You know, from these, what are they called? Spirit Merchants. Yeah, I love what they're doing, and I can't wait to get another release of this. I don't know why I don't. Yep, batch number 2. But if you happen to be in Alberta, and there was a few of these kicking around, if you see it, I would buy it. It's just that kind of good. So then we go from something I would absolutely buy again to this Halfpenny Irish. You know, I wanted to like this one. I did. It was affordable. And what did someone who recommended to me? It's a good breakfast whiskey. Well, I don't know. I never tried it. I'll admit I never tried it with bacon and eggs, and maybe it would. It's got all these casks kicking around. It looks good. It's 43%, and it came off kind of generic. Like it came off decent enough, a little bit more depth than a very typical sweet Irish, but it didn't have enough in it for me to want to buy it again. Good presentation, decent price, not a bad bottle. Like not bad. But on this lineup, I'm just not going to buy it again because I'm struggling to even remember the tasting notes. And that tells me not something I'm going to buy again. Then for this last Irish, this is 2 Stacks. And I have to say, I pretty much enjoy everything 2 Stacks put out. I think they do some really interesting blending. This Smoke and Mirrors, you know, is a peated single malt. But like they put... just so many different things. Double malt, peated malt, stout malt. They've got oatmeal stout casks, first fill bourbon casks. They really play around a lot with dialing in how they want their spirit to be. Or that's my impression. I don't really know them. I haven't been there. And this one was good. And I know lots of people really like this one, even over the first. But I just can't get over how much I really enjoyed that first release that had like just maybe only 5% peat and not like 30 on this one. And so this is good. Tasty, chewy, all those flavors kicking around in there. And I think it was a bigger percent. No, only 48. The stout malt made it a little bit thicker. Now that I'm looking at it again, remembering, yeah, the kind of the oatmeal malt cask finish was interesting. So like I might buy this again, but I will buy other 2 stacks probably before it because I'm kind of on the journey rather than try to find this exact bottle. I got 2 international and I'll anchor it with a couple of Canadians. So my 2 international, one is French. This is Armoric. Their sherry cask. It's a non-aged stamp. So there's no aging on here. I believe it's matured entirely in sherry casks. And this one absolutely got better. When I first bought it, I thought, oh, it's kind of a generic sherry, which is fine. Like sometimes it's fine, but I paid a little bit more than I would for kind of a generic sherried single malt, but it definitely got better. This absolutely got better. The sherry got richer, the malt got creamier. This ended up being really quite nice. And so I would look for an Armoric. I would buy this one again for the price I paid. I actually really got into it. It took at least a month to open up for me. Now, whether it was my palate getting to know it or whether bottles actually open up. International, a gift. This is Nika coffee malt. So, just remember here, that although it's Nika from Japan, coffee malt here is by no means aged in coffee barrels or coffee beans. It is, the inventor of the coffee still, which is one of the early, similar to a continuous still style. Now this one is malt whiskey, and what's interesting to me about this, when I first had it, like I'm talking the first few drams, this is definitely a good one to get near the end to talk about a journey, is it really started sweet. It started sweet, almost Canadian, even though it's malt. It's buttery and almost too sweet. But then the butter got richer, and the oak or the finish got longer, it seemed, and I ended up really liking this. It still reminds me of, a good Canadian whiskey, but just so much richer, just so much longer, fuller, more caramel, less just sugar. So I ended up really liking this, but it took me a while to get to know it. So then I've got 2 more Canadian bottles and we'll be done. It's Canadian Rocky series. They got their whiskey, I believe this was from Highwood. I can't remember now. It's so long ago. And thankfully it's released at a hearty 46%, and it's got a great age, 21 years. I think I paid, like for this bottle, this is going back a few years, like $70, 80 maybe, which is a steal for an age like that, right? You get a little bit of that older notes when you got a 21-year-old whiskey, 46, and it brought some oak back in the conversation. So as Canadian whiskeys go, this absolutely was a good one. Oh, it's funny. It kind of smells like that Nika. But it was very good, and if I could get it for $70, you bet I'd put it back on the shelf. 21-year-old for $70, you can't get that anywhere nowadays. Took me a long time to finally say, okay, let's let go. Kind of sat like this for probably 2 years, and then I said, well, let's work through it. It was good. At $70, I'd buy it. It's probably, if you can still get it, I believe they still have a 17-year-old and a 21-year-old at the prices I think I've seen them at. I'm actually not going to buy that again. All right, last whiskey. This is Pike Creek. It's the PX Sherry 22-year-old. And, it's interesting how much is the wrong term. Pike Creek is a corn-forward whiskey for me. And in the rum finish cast, a 10-year-old, I really don't like it. It sucks in that rum, and there's, like, to me, I feel like I'm drinking a rum and not a 10-year-old whiskey, and so I really don't like it. Contrast that to a lot more age on it, and in a cask that I like notes from, perhaps, a nice PX sherry, and this is a great whiskey. You know, you likely won't be able to find this anymore because, of course, it's a limited release and it was a few years ago. But I'll just talk for a minute about Pike Creek and age. I really like what Dr. Don Livermore his team has been working on here, where they take Pike Creek, which I think must be a whiskey that really can highlight and can shift with casking. And they've been trying different casks, and this one was delicious. And I would absolutely buy this sweet sherried, buttery caramel popcorn whiskey. It was great. Thanks for staying with me all the way through. Did you guess which one of these this was? I think you should be able to, given the lineup. Down here, it was in fact, and I'm sure you guessed it, this Lumreek 10-year-old. I kept a bit back. It wasn't in the bottle. I kept it in a small bottle, so it didn't oxidize. Just a little 100 ml, maybe even 50. It was a pretty small little bottle. And so those notes. So I'm going to enjoy this as I edit the video. Hope you enjoyed talking through 20 whiskeys. I hope I can get it down to almost about 20 minutes. Thank you again for joining me. Cheers.